Welcome to Crossroads. I'm your host, Joshua Phillip. Today we have Daniel Griswold with the Trade and Immigration Project. And you're here talking about free trade, global free trade at the ALEC meeting. So tell us a bit about what you're working on.
Yes, so I'm a senior research fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. I co-direct our Trade and Immigration Project. And I'm here to talk to our friends at ALEC about the benefits of free trade for people in their district, families as consumers, businesses, farmers. Specifically, I'm talking about U.S. agriculture and international trade and some of the pain that's been caused by the recent tariff war. And then also the prospects of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada free trade agreement that this administration's negotiated and is pending approval in Congress.
Great. So what are the benefits of international trade? I understand that's kind of the heart of the issue you're trying to get at here, right?
Yes.
How do you explain this to people? What's your pitch?
It's very consistent with the values of the American Legislative Exchange Council, free markets, individual liberty, limited constitutional government. Free trade's not some conspiracy by the globalist elite. It's what people do when they're left free by their governments to do business with people in the rest of the world. We do it on a local scale, don't we? Families, communities specialize, they trade with others. We're all better off because we can be more productive in what we do. For U.S. consumers, free trade means more choice, lower prices, better quality, more variety of goods. For businesses, it means they can plug into global supply chains and lower their cost of production. For U.S. companies, of course, it means more export opportunities. 95% of the world's population, 3/4 of the world's spending power is outside of the United States. By engaging in global trade, U.S. companies can sell to global markets rather than just the domestic market.
Great. And so what are the inhibitions you're running into when it comes to being able to, I think one of the big issues we have as well, different values, different governments. You're dealing with, for example, during the Soviet Union, you had the Soviet Union. Now during the Chinese Communist Party's reign in China, you have authoritarian politics. And I know there's issues when dealing with that, and the trade issues are oftentimes a factor that's played in that gets hurt sometimes when these things go at it with each other. But how do you deal with these issues, and how do you talk about these issues?
It's a messy, complicated world, and I wish every country in the world practiced free trade and free markets and gave maximum liberty to their people, but that's not the world we live in. We can still trade profitably with the rest of the world. Trade is a win-win proposition, going back to Adam Smith, nations that trade with each other. While not everybody in those nations is better off, the nations are better off. Josh, you look around the world, the nations that are the most prosperous and the freest in the world are those that are the most open to the global economy. So free trade is the best policy for the United States, regardless of what other countries do. That's one reason why trade agreements are important. Multilateral agreements through the WTO, regional and bilateral agreements like NAFTA, our agreement with Australia and other countries. They get other countries to lower their barriers as we lower ours. Global trade barriers have come down dramatically since the end of World War II. They used to be over 20%. They're now 5%. So these trade agreements have lowered barriers abroad. I'd like us to head to zero tariffs in the world. We aren't there yet, but trade agreements are getting us closer to that, and we're reaping the benefits as a nation.
And now, just last part, we're talking about the new trade deal between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and what an agreement that could be. I know that NAFTA had some flaws. In fact, I know some people who lost their businesses because of it. So I think, how do you balance hurting local businesses with having trade agreements like this?
Yeah, well first, trade is about more economic competition, more freedom. Economic competition can happen on a domestic level. You have some winners and losers. We've had Lyft and Uber come into the marketplace. Consumers have benefited. It's created opportunities for other workers who wouldn't necessarily have been taxi cab drivers. Has it meant some loss of business for taxi cab drivers? Yes. But are we better off as a society because we have this new technology, this competition? Yes. And I'd say we should look at trade the same way we look at technology. It can be disruptive, but it leads us to a more prosperous, productive economy, creating more opportunity. So kind of a longer answer to that question, but specifically, NAFTA has been good for the U.S. economy. It was a bipartisan agreement that was passed by Congress 25 years ago. It has created more opportunities for Americans. It's been good for the auto sector and other manufacturers. It's meant lower food costs for American consumers. It's brought us closer to Mexico and Canada. So USMCA builds on NAFTA while addressing some 21st century issues. NAFTA is a 25-year-old agreement. It adds a chapter on digital trade. Intellectual property protections are strengthened, has rules on state-owned enterprises. So this is all good. The only large negative thing about USMCA is it kind of rolls back some of the auto sector liberalization. It tightens what are called rules of origin, so it makes it a little harder actually to produce automobiles in a tariff-free environment in North America. It's not a huge problem, but it detracts a little bit from the agreement. It faces an uncertain prospect in Congress, so the real showdown is going to be the democratically controlled House. Are they going to pass the president's #1 legislative objective? That remains to be seen.
Great. So where can people learn more about your work?
Yes, we have a wonderful website called Mercatus.org. If they look there under Trade and Immigration, they can click on that and they can see all our good work.
Great. Yeah, real pleasure having you on the show. Thank you. Great. Everyone, please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.